A very good evening, students. So today, I thought in the morning that I may not be able to take up the session, but I think I'm good to go. I'll be able to take up your session. Thank you so much, Nancy, Shivani, everyone, Manishka, Sakshi, everyone, Charu. I am feeling better. Not 100% good, but yes, definitely better than first. I've got myself tested. Hopefully, the report is going to be negative. Okay, so now we studied, right? And for the first 1 hour, we will be taking up your doubts for overheads, your problems for overhead. And somebody told that something was missing in the MCQ. So I will read out the MCQs and you can check out that what is missing. And if you want to ask me anything, we'll do that. And after the break, that is 7:15, 7:20, whenever we take the break, after that, I'll be telling you or briefing you about ABC costing. So that will be the flow of session of today, right? So with that, let me look into the problems. Okay, Shivani has asked me, please tell me how to solve for 13 4-week period, illustration 7. And when Vanshika, I'm good. Better actually. Shivani, if I make the equation for you, then what do you do? Anyways, I will do it. Okay, so let me share the screen with you and let me share. I don't want to share the whiteboard. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, so the overheads. Okay. Illustration 7. That's what you want to ask me. Okay. Okay. This we did. Where is illustration 7? This is 6. Yeah. A machine shop cost center contains 3 machines of equal capacities. To operate these 3 machines, 9 operators are required. That is 3 operators on each machine. Operators are paid 20 rupees per hour. The factory works for 48 hours in a week, which includes 4 hours of setup time. Now, what do you mean by setup time and running time? Right? It's like earlier ICAI used to ask us questions that wherein we expected the student to calculate a machine hour rate for setup time and machine hour rate for running time. But now ICAI has done away with that and we are not asking you any question on that. But basically, when you say that there is a setup time or there is a maintenance time which has to be given, setup time is different and maintenance time is different. Then actually, if there is a maintenance which I know which has to be done, which is mandatorily supposed to be done, without it, the machines cannot work. So it is given in the question, then that we take up as normal loss. Normal loss means if, say for example, in a year we have got 2000 hours and I say 20 hours, mandatorily the machine has to be spent on, we have to spend on maintenance. That means my normal hours would not be 2000. It will be 2000 minus those maintenance hours of 20. Okay, so that is one thing. Here they are saying that My factory works for 48 hours, but in those 48 hours, 4 hours are for setting up. That means you can't afford to work for all 48 hours. 4 hours you will have to hold up the machine, or it takes time for the machine to get ready. So if we are finding a comprehensive rate, then this setup time becomes a normal loss kind of a. Okay, now let's read further. The work is jointly done by operators. The operators are paid fully for the 48 hours. Obviously, you'll pay the workers always for full hours. You won't say that this time is being spent on maintenance, so I can't, I will not pay. So this kind of a thing doesn't happen. Now, in addition, they are paid a bonus of 10% of productive time. Costs are reported for this company on the basis of 13 4-weekly period. Now, they're very clear that we are going to record expenses not on a yearly basis, but on weekly basis. And on those weekly basis also, they have defined it. 4-weekly period. In the last class, I told you there are 52 weeks. So that means 13 4-weekly period means 4 weeks in a month. So it is nothing but instead of saying monthly, they are being very clear that do not do calculations divided by 12. They are being very clear. Please, if you want to do any calculations, do 4 divided by 13 if you are doing it for 1 month. Am I clear, Vanishka? They are very clear on that. If you want to find something monthly, don't do 1 by 12. Please do it 4 by 30, right? Because in the whole year, if there are 13 weeks, 13 into 4 is what? 52 weeks. So if there are total 52 weeks, that means in a month, it is going to be 4 weeks. So that's the logic which they work on. Okay. Now, the company for the purpose of computing machine hour rate includes the direct wages of the operator and also recoups the factory overheads allocated to the machine. The following details of factory overheads applicable to the cost center are available. Now here, I think there is no problem. Information is given. We need to just put it down. So I do it for you. Depreciation is 10% of the original cost. If original cost is 52,000, 10% of it is going to be 5,200 for a year. Maintenance and repairs per week is going to be 60. So if you want to do it for 1 month, it will be how much? 60 into 4 weeks. Okay. Consumables per week is 75, similar, same cheese. Power is 20 units per hour at the rate of 80 paisa per unit. This is already given per hour. So as I've told you, you are not going to, you are just going to keep it per hour only. It's as simple as that. Of course, while you're setting up, there's very clear that no time is, no power is being used. Then they have given us for rent and heating and lighting and foreman salary and other expenses. First thing, how many hours you're working? How many total hours you're working? So 48 hours now we work, and they have said you are supposed to do the calculations on the basis of 4 weekly 13 period hai. So we are going to do the calculation for 4 weeks. So 48 into 4. These are the total hours. And in this, how much is the time when you're not working? It is the setup time, which is how much? Which is 4 hours. Now that time, Vanshika, is, you can't do without it. A machine we have to spend time for setting up the machine. That's a normal loss. That's not an abnormal loss. So normal loss, all of us know, we need to subtract it in order to get our normal hours of working. So our normal hours of working would be 48 into 4 minus 4 into 4. They get out with 176 hours. Now they have put in all the expenses of the month which they have given us: rent, heat and light, foreman salary, and other expenditure. They have put in all the expenditure. This is a standing expenditure for the whole year. The rest of the expenses are basically weekly. So we need to do it yearly. Now for one machine, they have said that total expenses for one machine for 4-week period, right? They have said is 46,080. Now 46,080 is for the whole year, right? And I think they have done the, This they have done it for a 4-week period. This is yearly. Now we'll have to convert this into a 4-week period. So what do? 46,000 divided by 13 weeks, right? So we get it for, we divide it by 13 weeks. Then what do we get? What do we get? We get it for the one machine for 4-week period. Now I understand the biggest problem is that, ma'am, why have we divided this by 13? But if you are doing it for 1 month, if you do into 4 divided by 52, it's one and the same thing. 46,080 is for 1 year, right? Now 1 year is equivalent to how many weeks? 52 weeks according to them. 1 year is equivalent to 52 weeks. Now we are supposed to do costing for how many months? 1 month. And that 1 month I'm not supposed to write down as 1 month. I'm supposed to write down as 4 weeks for the whole year. So if there are 52 weeks, that means 4 divided by 52 is what? 4 divided by 52 is what? 30. And that's exactly what they're doing. So 46,080 divided by 30. They divided by 3 because they have already given this information that this was for 3 machines. So if I want to find out for 1 machine, I'll have to first do 46,080 divided by 3, right? How much does that come out to be? 46,080. How much does that come out to be? 46,080 divided by 3. It comes out to be 15,360 for 1 machine. And then if I divide this by 13, I get out with 1,181 for 1 machine for a 4-week period. Rest is easy. Wages you are paying for 48 hours, for 4 weeks. What is the rate? 20. You need to have 3 operators. Okay. They multiplied it because each machine required 3 operators. That also they have given it very clearly. Right? See. 3 operators on each machine. Right? So that's what you did. Bonus, obviously you would pay only for the hours you worked. So normal hours were 176 into 20 into 3 and of course 10% of the same, right? Now your question would be that, ma'am, why are we not paying bonus for 192 hours? Because they are very clear that bonus is going to be for the productive hours. So productive hours is this much. You get out with the total expenses. Depreciation 52,000 into 10%. Again, divided by 13, you get the answer. Repairs, consumable, everything you multiply by 4. You get this figure. Now here, power, they have done 166 into 20 into 0.8. I would not have done it. I would not have done it. You know what I would have done it? I would have taken up expenditures till here. I would have added up everything. 13,757 plus 400 plus 240 plus 3. Right? How much does it come out to be? How much does this come out to be? 13,757.54 plus 400 plus 240 plus 300. This comes out to be 14,697.54. I would have divided this with 176 hours. Divided by 176. I would have got out with 83.50. And then I would have added for the power. So how much power we require? How much power we require? What's given in the question? Power is 20 units per hour at the rate of 80 paisa per unit. Right. So I would have done what? I would have done 20 into 80 paisa. 20 into 80 paisa is 16 rupees. And this would have been my cost, 83.5 plus 16, 99.5. This would have been my machine hour rate. I would have never converted this. I'm not happy with ICAI. This which ICAI has done, I'm not agreeing to it. Why do I need to multiply it and then divide it? I know something already hourly. So what do? I take up the other expenses, divide them by 176, our normal hours, get the hourly rate like 83.5, and then add the power. With this, our question will never go wrong. I hope I'm clear. So Shivani, have I answered your question? Till then, let me look at any doubt. Good evening. Good evening. How's your health? I'm seemingly much better, Nitya, today. Oh, they were eagerly waiting for my lecture. Thank you so much. That's why I feel better, because I know students are waiting for my session. I'm better, not recovered. I've given myself for testing because I'm having a severe stomach ache. And I think I'm not having smell. I feel, I don't know. Now, okay. Okay, ma'am, in illustration 4, under absorbed overhead summary, why amount of direct material and direct wages are not taken for production overhead? Oh, Nitya, when you are doing or calculating overhead absorption rate, then I told you in the beginning, go and look at my lecture again. Direct material and direct wages of a service department is an overhead for the production department. But the direct material and wages of the production department are not overheads. They are the direct material. Try to understand it like this, Nitya, that I am manufacturing some product, right? Now I have got a canteen, right? Now, what will be the direct material for the canteen? The raw material which they require for the purpose of producing food, right? Now that material is a direct material for that canteen, right? That is an overhead because it's a service department. Any direct material or any direct expenses, any worker working in that factory is a direct worker for that canteen. But the whole canteen itself is a service department, and any expenditure of the service department is an overhead. So you're getting me, Nitya? So basically, Nitya, direct material, direct expenses, overheads of the service department are overheads. Production department, direct material and direct wages is a part of prime costs. Overheads are the overheads like factory rent, or supervisor salary, or indirect material, or any apportionments coming from the service department. I hope I'm clear. So if you're clear, give me a hands up on the session. Next question. Jasmine, hi Ronak. Hi Jyoti. Ma'am, can you please tell what is normal capacity? Okay, Jasmine, I'll tell you. So I stop the share here. I share the normal screen here. What do you mean? Normal. Now, beta, I repeat, there is something called as maximum capacity. Right? For example, you say that in a month, you can work for 25 days, leaving the Sundays. You say you can work for 25 days. Every day you can work for 8 hours. And let us say you have got 100 workers. So what is the maximum hours you can work? You'll say, ma'am, we can work for 25 into 8. Sorry, not 8. I'm like, you can work in the factory for 20 hours. Machine is capable of working for 20 hours, right? So you say, ma'am, 25 days into every day 20 hours into 100. So you say, ma'am, I can work, the machine can work for 50,000 hours. Except Sundays, we don't work. We work for 25 days. In fact, let me rub it. If I talk about maximum, why do you want to leave Sunday also? Why do you want to leave Sunday also? You can say, ma'am, I can work for all 30 days in a month. And except 4 hours, which I require for setting, I can work for 20 hours in a day, and I've got 100 workers. So what is the maximum capacity your machines can work? 30 into 20 into 100, 60,000 hours. But you tell me, this is the maximum. This is the maximum. But practically, it may not be possible. First of all, we don't work for 30 days. We have to give laborers holiday. So let us say we can only work for 25 days. Second, we don't have so many orders. We require to work only for 8 hours. And of course, into 100. You will say, ma'am, technically speaking, my practical capacity is 25 into 8 into 100. It's 20,000 hours. Now, further, who asked me this question? Jasmine. Let's go further. Now, this is practically, I can do this. But you realize that there are workers who took leave without informing, or somebody fell sick, or there are certain hours you allow them to take a leave, various reasons. So it could be without informing, with informing, whatever reason. Or you can say with pay, without pay. And you realize all this put in together, around 1,000 hours, you can't do anything. The person is not working only. They're not there. Now, if the worker is not there, how can you say that, okay, if you divide that by, those many hours, don't you think you'll be wrong? Because those many hours, you're never working. Whether the worker is absent by informing, and, we are ready to give him payment also for that. But you tell me, when I myself know that actually you are never working for 20,000 hours. You are actually working, the workers are only working for 19,000 hours. Don't you think I should find out the overhead rate by 19,000 hours? So normal capacity means what is the capacity, or what is the number of hours, or what is the number of units which you will be normally producing, because you should absorb overheads only on those. What you have not done, or you could not do, or will not do. I repeat, what you could not do or will not do, you should not take that. Now, say for example, setup. Now, setup to karna padega na. We will have to set up a machine. Now, without setting up a machine, I can't work. Now, guys, if every time I am spending, let us say, every time I'm spending 2 hours for setting up, and every week you require 4 hours of maintenance. Now, these 6 hours, I know I can't work, even if I want to. Now, say if in a week I have got 48 hours, you will say, ma'am, my normal hours are 42. Why? Because what is the point in taking up those 48 hours? Because if you divide your overheads for finding out your machine hour rate, if you divide by 48, you will come out with a lower rate, right? You have divided expenses also on those hours which actually are not productive. You're never working. So what was the point? So what will happen? Knowingly, you will under-absorb overheads. You can't do that, right? So we need to find out the normal capacity. So Jasmine, if you have followed, please inform me that yes, ma'am, I have followed. And still, if you haven't, please let me know. Okay. Akshay, good evening, ma'am. I have not understood properly question 8. Okay, question 8, not illustration 8, right? Okay, so Shivani, your problem is solved. Feeling better, Durgesh? Better. Just wish my COVID report comes negative. Zoom the screen. I did, Ria. Okay, now. Okay. Suhas, am I clear? Ma'am, please explain practice question 1. So you want practice question 1. You want practice question 8. Akshay, please make it clear. Practice question 8. And I think who asked me about illustration 9? I think it was Vanchika. Charu didn't get second part of question 12. So it's basically question number 1, question number 8, question number 12. Okay. Ma'am, what is it? Ma'am, what is the acceptable deviation in averages? Deviation in averages means, for example, if it is very clear, the answer should be 22.5. And if your answer is coming 22.4 also, then you get a 0. Because if there is no room for deviation, deviations won't be allowed. But yes, if already there is a question by which the answer can come, in points, then deviation will depend upon what is the maximum. Say if the answer should be like 22.68. So if a student has rounded off to 23, or if a student has written 22, we'll give marks both ways. Okay, so this is the level of deviation. Ma'am, they will come under prime cost. What are you telling me, Manish? I didn't understand. Abhishek, ma'am, if in the illustration 7 they had asked for direct machine hour rate and not comprehensive rate. So, Abhishek, what are you trying to ask? If machine hour rate or comprehensive rate, see, comprehensive rate, machine hour rate can be a dual rate or a comprehensive rate, right? So, Abhishek, if it was a dual rate, that means they wanted us to calculate rate for the setup when the machine is being set up and when machine is running. Then I would have done what? I would have taken up all the fixed expenses and divided it by 192 hours. Why? Means because then I would have taken up even the setup time to be normal, right? And if running time is to be taken up, I would have taken up all variable expenses and divided it by 176. Okay, Abhishek? But that all is not required. So it is a machine hour rate which they are doing in illustration 7. And institute only wants comprehensive rate from you. Okay, now next question. Ma'am, please solve question 10. Okay. Ma'am, cost sheet and cost, profit and loss, we are going to study further. Yes, both there are Q related to this. There are questions related to it. So Shivani, when you will be taught cost sheet, you please ask those questions there. Or if there is anything which you want to ask me, because it is printed in the overhead material, you can ask me. Ma'am, in question 1, at last, in B part, which question you are telling me? Shrisha, if there were abnormal hours, we will not subtract that, right? If there were abnormal hours, Shivani, we will not subtract that. Ma'am, in answer of question number 6, oh God, let me start taking up the questions, right? Okay, let me first start solving. Okay. So this was the first question which was asked, and illustration 9 was asked from me. Right, Shivani, I will just tell you how to make those, what you can say, this equations. Now look at it. in an engineering company, the factory overheads are covered on a fixed percentage basis of direct wages. So how do you cover up the overheads? On the basis of direct wages, factory overhead. And admin overheads are absorbed on a fixed percentage of factory cost. Okay. Company has furnished the following data relating to two jobs. They have given us material, they have given us wages, and they have given us the selling price. How much profit we charge on total cost, that also. So if I simply try to put it, they say factory overheads. They say factory overheads. Yes, factory overheads is a percentage of direct wages. So if your direct wages is equal to W, then a particular percentage of this is going to be your factory overheads. This is what they're trying to say. Right? And administration overheads, they are saying, will be equivalent to factory costs. That means direct material plus direct labor plus factory overheads. Whatever you do, the total of this, a particular percentage of this will be equivalent to admin overhead. This is what they are trying to say. Now, once we understand this, how do you solve it? Because in this particular question, they have just given me direct material, they have given me direct wages. Now, how much of what we do not know? They have said computation of percentage recovery rates of factory overheads and admin overhead. Calculate the amount of factory, admin, and profit for each jobs. And then they said, if you have been given this data, well, what will you do it? So they say, can we assume factory overheads to be X of direct wages, which they are assuming it to be F. They say if the direct wages happen to be 1,000, X percentage of that 1,000 will be factory overhead. Right. And what will be admin overheads? They said it will be a percentage on factory cost. So what did they do? Factory cost is what? It is material plus wages plus factory overhead. Now they have made a question. For job 1, 54,000, which is the material cost. Wages is 42,000. Yes. And what will be your factory overhead? A percentage of this 42,000. Now that percentage, they are assuming it to be F. That means 54,000 plus 42,000 plus F of 42,000. F of 42,000. You don't want to put F, you can say X of 42,000. Similarly, for job 102, it will be 37,500 plus 30,000 plus X percentage of 30,000. They are not saying it X, they are saying it F. Now, after this, once we have got this, they say what will be administration overhead? They said the total of this is a percentage. So you can say Y. So they say factory cost plus admin overhead would be what? So for job 101, it's going to be what? 54 plus 42, which is 96,000 plus 42F. Plus iska a percentage, which is going to be admin overhead. And this is equivalent to, they are saying how, because they are saying if the selling price happens to be 166,650, if they say selling price is 166,650 and I know the profit percentage on total cost. Now this percentage is on cost and this is the selling price. So what do I do? Selling price the screen got lost somewhere. So if you say selling price happens to be 1,66,650, but the profit percentage which you have given me is 10% on selling price. Now please apply your grade 5th standard accounts, mathematics. Now you have been given 10% on selling price, on cost, on selling price. If it is given 10% on selling price, you can do what? 166, 650 ka 10% nikalo. This will be your profit. You can subtract that and you can get out with the cost. But the problem is, they are not asking you this. They are saying selling price is rupees 166,650 and the profit percentage which they have given is 10% is on total cost. If it is given on total cost, then you'll say, let us assume if total cost is 100. Then profit of 10% of it on this, that means selling price would be 110. Now can I solve this? 166,650 divided by 110 into 100. I'll get out with the cost. So it is 166,650 divided by 110 into 100. So I get out with 1,51,500. And that's exactly what they did, Shivani. Yes? Am I clear? So this was the mathematical part, which we are finding it difficult to solve. Now, can I go back to the textbook? Shivani, if this doubt of yours is sorted out, please let me know that, yes, ma'am, this particular doubt is sorted out. Okay. So this was illustration 9, which was asked by Shivani. Look at this. Illustration 9. One by one, I'll keep on taking the doubts. Where is it? Illustration. Okay, so illustration 9, is it clear to you? So I hope, Shivani, now this is clear to you that why this figure 151,500 has been derived. Okay, so this one doubt is clear. Now I'll keep on looking at the doubts, please. Okay, none, anything from the illustrations, nothing. Now I go up to the practical questions. Okay, the practical questions. Let's look at question number 1. This is what you're wanting? Practical question 1. Somebody has asked me. Question 8. Practice question 1. Yes. What is it that you want me to tell you in practice question 1? ABC company has the following accounts and distribution of direct charges. They have given me information. They have given me the overheads which I need to apportion. Following data was compiled by means of factory survey made in the previous year. Right? What do I need to do? Expenses charged to the stores and maintenance department are to be distributed to other departments by the following percentages. Machine shop 50%, packing 20%, general plant 30%. And general plant overhead is distributed on the basis of number of employees. So there are 2 service departments, right? And they're very clear how you are going to divide this. But before that, we need to first apportion this. So how will you divide power? How will you divide power? If we have been given machine hours and horsepower, I could have done horsepower into machine hours. But here, I have not been given anything. So what do I divide machine power on the basis of what? What should I divide power on what basis? Tell me. What should I divide? I have the horsepower hours. I have the horsepower hours. Right? But I don't have the horsepower. Right? So what I can do? I can divide on the basis of 3,500 is to 500 is to 1,000. I can divide power on that basis. Rent, I can divide it on the basis of floor space. Fuel and heat, we can do it on the basis of radiator sections. Insurance, we can do it on the basis of investment. Trade license fees, or also trade license fees will depend upon the investment. Depreciation can be on the basis of machines, value of machines. Yeah. So they have already given us general packing plant, number of employees. So you just need to divide this on the basis. So insurance, you can do it on the insurance of what we do not know. So you can do it on the basis of investments. Depreciation, again, I can't see anything. So again, on the basis of, it should be technically on the basis of machine hours or machine value, but I can't see machine value, right? Radiator section, I do not know. Trade license fee, you can do it on the basis of, number of employees or something. So you need to apportion these overheads, right? Which is the best? Stores and maintenance can be on the basis of number of employees, right? So these are the various, this overhead, you can divide it on the basis of these data which they have given. You can divide it on any of these data, right? Whoever asked me, the gentleman who was there. And then after you have divided the expenses of the service department, you will allocate the expenses of that department over the, in this ratio, machine, packing and general plant. And the expenses of the general plant on the number of employees. So this is what this information is all about. I don't want to solve the sum because it will take a lot of my time. I can just look at the answer of ICAI. And this was a very easy question. I was only interested in question number 12. They have made an apportionment expense. Power, they have done it on the basis of HP hours. Rent, they have done it on the floor space. Fuel and heat, they have done it on the basis of radiators. Insurance, they have done it on the basis of investment. License, they have done it on the basis of investment. Depreciation, you have done it on the basis of investment because nothing else was given. After we divided all these expenses, we found out whatever the expenses total was, we wrote it here, right? Then what did we do? Stores and maintenance, I divided on these three on the ratio which was given to me, which was some 50, 30 or 20, right? It was given to us, service department to production department, right? We divided it, see, 5:2:3, and this is overlapping because stores is rendering to general plant and general plant is rendering to stores. And then you are dividing this general plant expenses on the basis of number of employees. You kept on doing it till the time you got out with, nominal figures, right? So, right. Thank you, Nitya. You are clear. Uma Prajapati not getting illustration 9. Okay, Akshay, question 10. But first of all, person who had asked me question number 1, Suhas, are you clear? If yes, please let me know. Suhas, are you clear? If yes, please let me know. Manan, approximate means generally, as I repeat, if the difference is in points, right? If it is 0.23 and you get out with the answer of 0.5, we'll give you marks, right? If certain figure has to come exact, see, I will not entertain a difference of 2 rupees. If the thing has to be 23.68 and you have got 23.59, I'll give you marks. Right? You round it off also, I'm going to give you marks. But I will not allow a difference of 2 rupees because where will that difference come up? Right? Okay, Shivani, your doubt is clear. Okay. Who asked me question number 1? If your doubt is clear, please let me know. Okay, Suhas. Okay, done. Now, I take up illustration again. Illustration 9 again. Because Uma Prajapati also wants to know and Shivani says, I'm also confused. But before I tell you this, I tell something else first. There is a difference between markup and margin. All of you should understand. This is basic thing which you require to know. Margin is on sales. Markup is on cost. I hope I'm very clear. Now I'm giving you an example. For example, I tell you selling price of the good is 5,000. But if I give you markup, 20%. Now guys, markup means the profit percentage. Now markup is 20%, but it is on cost. But do I know cost? No. Then go back to your class 5th maths. If you are given percentage on cost, assume cost is equal to 100. Add the profit. So what will be selling price? 120. Now can you equate? Yes, you can equate. So you'll do what? 5,000 divided by 120 into 100. If you'll do it, you will get out with the cost. Or you want to find out the profit, you can just multiply it by 20. If, on the other hand, you are given cost is 5,000, but you are given margin. Now, margin is always on selling price. Whatever percentage you are given on what, you assume that to be 100. That means, let us assume selling price, let selling price be rupee 100. Then profit of 20%. Now you subtract profit in order to get the cost. Now, if the cost is 5,000, you can equate it to, it is equivalent to 80. Then what will be 100? Then you will get out with the selling price. You want to find out the profit, you can multiply it by 20 and get the profit. Okay. So this thing you need to remember. Good, Shivani, you are clear. Now, keeping this into mind, I go back, Uma, on that question, illustration 9. Now, that illustration 9 is basically not a question of costing. It is basically a question that do you understand how to form equations? They are very clear. They are very clear. They are saying that factory cost is a percentage of direct wages. So if you say your direct material is 24 plus your direct wages is 20,000, right? What is factory cost? Factory cost is equal to direct material plus direct wages plus a percentage of direct wages. So percentage of direct wages would be 20,000. You assume that to be X. That's what they have done. So I'm just clearing it now, right? Now this is for a particular job. This is for job 101 and 102. So what do? If you make an equation, how will you do it? How will you do it? For job 101, it is going to be, factory cost is going to be 54,000 plus 42,000 plus X percentage, or here they are assuming F percentage of 42,000. So it will be 42,000 F. Yes. Then they say admin overhead, they assume to be a percentage of factory cost. Now what is factory cost? This is factory cost. So this they are writing as 96,000 plus 42,000 F, a percentage. Now this is a bit long equation, and then factory cost plus admin overhead is equal to the cost. So they have given you the selling price. You should know that from selling price, how do you get cost? Once I know the cost, you can just relate it and you can just equate it. And that's exactly what ICAI has done. See? This is the factory cost. Now, on this factory cost, they added up admin overhead and they equated it to cost. Now I get out two equations. Now when you solve these two equations, you are going to get A and F. You'll get the percentage of it. Now this you'll need to solve mathematically. Once you solve it, you can apply it on the third part of the problem. So I hope, Uma, I have sorted it out. Okay. Yes, Shivani, question number 12 is lengthy, but it is easy. I'm happy to know that. Okay. Now I move up further to Akshay had asked me question number 10. Question number 10. Okay. In fact, this is 9. Question number 10. A light engineering factory fabricates machine parts for customers. The factory commenced fabrication for 12 number machine parts as per customer specification. The expenditure incurred on the job for the week ending 31st August is as follows. So they tell us material is so-and-so, labor is so-and-so. Machine, you spend 4 hours, 180 rupees. Machine 2, you have spent 6 hours at the rate of 390. So this is your total cost. And then they have added up overheads. Now the overhead rate of 8 per machine hour is based on 3,000 man hours per week. Okay. Similarly, the machine hour rate based on the normal working of machine 1 and 2 for 40 and 45 hours per week. So they have told us what is the basis. After the close of each week, the factory levies a supplementary rate for the recovery of full overheads on the basis of actual hours worked during the week. During the week ending 31st August 2020, the total labor hours worked were 2,400 hours, and machine number 1 and 2 had worked for 30 and 32.5 hours respectively. Now look at it. They are trying to tell you that, boss, this rate of 8 rupees was calculated if we worked for 3,000 per hour, 3,000 man hours, right? But actually we have worked for only 2,400 hours. They say we will apply a supplementary rate. So as per 3,000 man hours, that means the overhead should have been how much? 3,000 into 8. 24,000 would have been the overheads. But actually you worked for 2,400 hours. So if you worked for 2,400 hours, that means 2,400 into 8. You recovered how much? You recovered how much? As per this, 3,000 into 8, your overheads must have been 24,000. That is why the recovery rate was 8. Later on, they say we actually worked for 2,400 hours only. So actually overheads recovered is how much? It is 2,400 into 8, which my calculations shows as 19,200. Now, how much is under recovered? Under recovered is 24,000 minus 19,200. So 4,800 is under recovered. So what do? They say we'll have to recover this. So what will be the supplementary rate? You divide this by the actual hours. So dividing this by you get out with a supplementary rate of 2 per hour, right? And similarly, they say machine 2, our rate was 65. And there we assume that we'll be working for 45 hours a week, though we actually work for 32.5. Again, there will be an under recovery there. So again, same way you are going to calculate. Let us see what ICAI has done. Okay, Akshay? So let us see what ICAI has done. Okay. I hope you have understood the question now. So, question number 10. Yeah. Okay. Question number 10. Direct material 780. This they have copied, right? From the top. Now, this is the total cost. What will be the supplementary rate? 3,000. So your actual overhead would have been 24. But you actually, how much is under recovered? That they calculated. So supplementary charge was 2. What ICAI has done, they have actual hours is 2,400. So what did they do? 24,000 divided by 2,400. They directly calculated that the rate should have been 10. You calculated it at 8. So 2 rupees more you need to charge, right? What I did 2,400 into 8 rupees. I said, how much is overhead recovered? 19,200. How much is not recovered? 4,800. You calculate a supplementary rate because they have not given me anything normal or abnormal. So I take everything as normal. So 4,800 divided by 2,400 and I get out with the 2 rupees rate. So they absorb the overheads 20 hours into 2. Similarly for machine, you can calculate. Machine 1, you were supposed to work for how many hours? 40 hours. For machine 2, you should have worked for this many hours. Actually, you worked for this many hours only. So what should have been the actual rate? It should have been 1,800 divided by 30. Your actual rate should have been 60. So your supplementary rate, how much you need to increase? By 15 minutes, right? So I hope, Akshay, I have answered your question. If yes, tell me. Okay, now let me see who else has asked me. Ma'am, I'm clear. Ma'am, it's done now. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Great. I like it. Charu, ma'am, in various questions, ICAI has rounded off overheads like they have 5,04,300 for 5,04,271. If you'll distribute. Charu, don't get worried about these technical things. If it was 5,04,271, I know for which question you're asking. There was a question wherein they explained you trial and error. Remember? And there, it was when we solved it, our figure was 504,271. But when ICAI did it, they rounded it off. So anything above 50, 250 के ऊपर है तो उसको 300 बना दिया. 260 होता है उसको 300 बना दिया. ठीक है. आप नहीं भी राउंड ऑफ करो, If you are going to distribute it as 5,04,271, you will get full marks. Don't worry. ICAI always gives benefit of doubt to the students. Please remember that. Okay, so nothing to worry. Ma'am, in case of repeated distribution, if there are two service departments in S2 and S2, from which service department should we start? If it is repeated distribution, you can start from any department. Nothing to worry. Sure. You can start from department S1 or S2. We need to remember when to start only in case of step ladder. Right? So I think I've answered Shisha's question. I've answered Charu's question. Okay, it's done. Okay, Shivani, your question solved now. Okay, now we need to solve question number 12. We need to solve question number 12. Besides this, any other doubt? MCQs. Bacha, what is there in this question number 12, which I wanted everybody to do it? Because question number 12 actually gives you a complete idea as to how overhead costing works. That is why I was interested in this question. They say there are two departments. They produce two goods, A and B. Manufacturing division consists of two production departments, P1, P2, and two service department, S1, S2. So we are manufacturing two products. And we have got two production departments and we have got two service departments. And they're very clear that we are absorbing overheads on what basis? On fact, budgeted overheads are used in the production department to absorb factory overheads to the product. So they're very clear. We will have budgeted overhead divided by whichever method we use for the purpose of absorbing overheads. Now, the rate of department P1 is on the basis of machine hours and P2 is on the basis of direct labor hours. Okay. Somebody asked me, I was going through, somebody had asked me, Kushi, it's already 125% zoomed. Okay. Ma'am, what is the difference between machine hour rate and comprehensive rate? Guys, comprehensive rate means you are not making a difference between absorbing, let me put it like this. As I said, setting up time and running time. Now you may have a different absorption rate for setting up time, because for setting up time, even setup hours will be considered while dividing my while considering my denominator hours, because they'll be normal. Now I'll be absorbing overheads on setup hours also, right? So that is known as dual rate we are calculating. That is a rate for setup and the rate when the machine is running. Comprehensive means I'm not dividing. In comprehensive machine hour rate, my setup time, my normal maintenance hours, they are all my normal loss. That means I will deduct those hours for the purpose of calculating my normal hours. Am I very clear? I am going to deduct those hours for the purpose of calculating my normal hours. Okay. Now, not doing this question, then I'll go back to any other problem. Therefore, so you said department P1 is based on machine hours while P2 is based on labor hours. They said in applying overheads, predetermined rates are multiplied by actual hours. So everything they are telling you, and that's exactly how it happens. Whatever is written in the question, that's exactly how things happen. We always calculate a predetermined rate, and then whatever we actually do, we multiply. And they have also told us that how we are going to divide the expenses of the service department. Now look at it. We have got the production department, we've got the service department. They have already divided the overheads for us. So one work, they have already done it for us, right? What do I need to do? I need to find out first the budgeted rate. How we are going to do it? First, budgeted output in A, product A is 50 and B is 30. Budgeted time required for production unit. So for A is machine hours so-and-so, B is so-and-so, right? But what do we do first? First, we will divide the expenses of the service department as per the ratio which these people have given, right? So service department S1, you will divide equally. S2, you will divide it in 2:1 ratio. So that is what ICAI does. If I go by the answers, first thing which ICAI does is, okay. First thing they do it, they divide this. Now I have got all the overheads on the production department. Yes. Now what is the second step? Second step is I'll find out the machine hours, because this expenditure is on the basis of machine hours and this is on the labor hours. For this, what I'll do, I'll take up the budgeted units, right? Now ICAI has already done it for you. There is a working note here. Look at it. Budgeted output is 50,000 units for A and 30,000 for B. This is as per machine hours. So they just multiplied it and found out the total machine hours. And B was as per labor hours. They found out the total labor hours, right? So I know in department 1,05,000 machine hours are being spent. For department 2, 1,75,000 labor hours are being spent. And what did ICAI do? They divided it and found out the rate. And guys, this question tells you actually what happens practically. Now, anybody who's practically working, what he'll do? He'll multiply with the raw material which is given. Right now, this is budgeted, but actual may be different. Labor cost, you have been given budget, but actual may be different. Overheads, you'll absorb as per your budgeted overhead, but actual may be different. Right? So, practically speaking, the cost which I'll come to know as per budget, look here, is 25,71,000 for my raw material. This is for department 1, in which my 2 products are being manufactured. So as per them, my overall cost is coming out to be 25,71,000, but actually it is 26,31,000. So then the next thing begins, and that next thing is we start finding out why did it happen, why the material spend was more, whose mistake it was, and that will lead you to understand standard costing. Guys, this sum, you should not take it up as a sum. You should try to understand this is what happens practically. This is what happens practically. You determine that how you're going to absorb overheads as they have done it in this question. Once you have found out an absorption rate, you just do the costing for the units which you actually produce. Everything is as per budget, but the budget may not be always equivalent to the actual. So standard costing, when you'll be taught, the teacher will tell you that we need to find out why the variances are coming. Did I produce lesser than the budgeted quantity? Then there is going to be a quantity variance. Did I buy at a higher rate? Then there is going to be a rate variance. Right? So we'll find out all those variances when we are going to study standard costing. So this question I was interested, because this question gives you an insight as to what and why are we doing overhead accounting. Overhead accounting is important because absorption rate is important because it helps us to determine the cost of a product. On the basis of that cost, I add up my profit and I sell the product in the market. So I assume I will be getting a particular percentage of profit, but practically or in real, I may not be getting that much of profit. So then we need to look into and find out why. Right. So with this, every possible thing gets over. So let me look into any doubts if they're still there. This I've answered. Thank you, Durgesh. Okay, ma'am, clear. It's done now. What is standing charges? Ria, fixed cost. Anything which has got no relationship to production, like rent or maybe a supervisor salary, anything which is fixed in nature is known as standing charges. Right, no Ria. Question number 12 is not exam oriented. Question number 12 is actually the crux of how overhead costing actually works. Okay, Ma'am, in illustration 9, administration cost includes in cost, but it is charge against profit. Yes, it's charge against profit. Manish. Okay, I will just tell you on a short note. You are going to read this in detail when you do cost sheet. What is a cost sheet? Direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses. We call it as prime cost. Then whatever expenditures which you do inside the factory, you add them up, and this is known as a factory cost. When you say inside the factory, that means every expenditure which you're doing inside the factory. ICAI has given so much of theory for you to read. What do you mean by factory overheads? They have told you from the gatekeeper to the quality control to investigation charges to supervisor to they have tried to explain you every possible expenditure which you'll be doing inside the factory. Then they have moved up to administration. Now, technically, administration overhead has got nothing to do with production, technically. But this may not always be the case. We may have an administration department in the factory itself. If yes, then that admin part will go into factory. But if not, it will go separately. Means it will go after factory cost, right? So here I'm assuming all my admin overheads are not a part of factory cost. So then I add up the admin overheads. Now, when I add up the admin overhead, I get out with the cost of goods produced. Now, these goods which I produced, I will not sell all of them. So what do? The finished goods which I had, I'll add them up, and finished goods I'm not able to sell, I subtract. Then I get out with my cost of goods sold. And in this, I'm going to add up all my selling and distribution overhead. And then I'll get out with my cost of sales. So all these are overheads. Factory, admin, selling. But at what stage do you absorb them to find out what? If you want to find out factory cost, you need to absorb only the factory overhead. If you want to find out the cost of goods produced, you need to absorb admin overhead. If you want to find out the cost of sales, then you need to absorb selling, distribution overhead also on it. So I hope I've answered your question. Okay. This is it. Any more doubt? Got it, ma'am. Thank you. Dear ma'am, in illustration 10, your explanation for finding profit or loss. In illustration 10. Let me look into illustration 10. Okay, illustration 10. What is illustration 10? A company which sells 4 products, some of these are unprofitable. Company proposes to discontinue sale of these products. Following information is available regarding income, cost, and activity. So there are products given, sales, cost of goods sold, and they have given us some information. Now, selling and distribution overheads are on the basis of they've given rent, depreciation, so and so. So they have given us the basis also. There are variable costs everyone. You're required to prepare a cost sheet. Okay, fair enough. So what do? I just copied the sales figures from the top. Right. Now let me start doing it. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold 45, 21, 22 lakh 50. Okay. This they have already written. Right. Now what they are doing? Commission. They added up commission 4% on sales. This is given. Now what do you want me to do? Right. Packing and wages, 2 rupees per parcel, stationery. So they added up total variable cost. Sales minus variable cost gives you contribution. Okay, guys, you'll be able to understand this better when you'll be doing marginal costing. In marginal costing, I'll be teaching you marginal costing, right? I'll 100% explain you this concept that why ICAI has done this. See, there is something called as finding out cost per unit. We find out cost per unit because we need to add profit on it and I have to determine a selling price. But always doing things on the basis of total cost will not always be useful. Like in this question, this gentleman has decided that I'm incurring a loss, so I should discount. This is what he's saying now. He says some are not profitable, so I'll discontinue. Now you tell me which according to him will not be profitable, something which is not giving profit, right? But technically speaking, if I just subtract the cost of goods sold, A gives 10 lakh, this gives 5 lakh, this gives 4 lakh, and this gives some 22 lakh 50,000. When I further subtract the variable expenses, I still get a profit of here. I subtract all these commission, this, that, blah, 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 right? And I realize that my selling was how much? My selling price was 30, right? And selling price was 30. And I subtracted the cost of goods sold. I subtracted other variable costs. I realized my profit technically, and I can't call it profit because I still have to subtract the fixed costs. So I just subtract the variable cost and I realize that I am still getting some profit, which I can't call it as profit. I call it as contribution. You know why I call it as contribution? Because this fixed cost, whether I do business or not, whether I decide not to manufacture any product, these expenses will still be incurred. You can't remove a salesman, even if you decide to discontinue a product. You will still continue with the salesman. You will still incur money for rent and insurance. So when we take up decisions, we assume that we should not subtract all fixed costs. We should first only subtract the variable cost and see which product is giving me a negative contribution at that stage. So we can find out this product B is having a negative contribution here. So if basically I discontinue producing this B, at least I save on this loss because this cost anyways is going to be incurred. This cost, but this 1,40,000 of variable cost, which I am incurring because I'm manufacturing B, at least that I can save, no? Because this expenditure I can't do anything about. This will be anyways incurred, whether I produce B or I don't produce B. But at least by not producing B, I can reduce my loss of this variable cost, which is only incurred if the good is produced. So this is a sum for that. I would be explaining this more when I'll take marginal costing, right? So this is the logic. Any other doubt? Yes, ma'am, understood. Dear ma'am, is my query reaching to you? What was your query, Shushil? I can read most of the queries, but so many queries come that I get. So what was your query, Shushil? Let me see, Shushil. I think I've answered almost everybody's query. If at all I've missed out on somebody, I don't know. Shushil, what's your query? Shushil, I can't see your name. I can't see any query in your name. I can't find any query, Shushil. See further. Shushil, you have a query, then please write it down again. I don't have any query from your side. I can't see it. Right? Okay. So I think I have answered all possible queries. Now there was something which student Shushil, I can only read this. Dear ma'am, is my query reaching to you? I can only read this, but what is your query? I can't read this. Ma'am, can you explain supplementary rate once again? I'll do that, Christina. Okay. Sushil, what's your query? Please tell me that. The concept of supplementary rate is, Christina, for example, as we have already discussed this, that we decide on a predetermined overhead rate in the beginning, right? So for that predetermined overhead rate, let us say your budgeted overheads were 1 lakh, and you decided that you will be able to work for budgeted hours 10,000. So what was your predetermined overhead rate? Your predetermined overhead rate was 1 lakh divided by 10,000. Yes, it comes out to be 10 rupees per hour. Now this is a overhead rate which you determine. Now, why do we need to calculate supplementary rate? Now let us say my actual hours which I work is only 7,500 hours. Then how much overheads I am actually charging? Or you can use the word absorbing. Or you can use the word recovering. You can use any word. If you've actually worked only for 7,500 hours, that means you recovered how many overheads? How many overheads did you absorb? You absorbed only 75,000 rupees. But let us say actually also you have spent 1 lakh only, let us say that. Then how much you could not recover? How much you could not recover? How much you could not recover? You could not recover 25,000. Now what do? You actually look into the fact and you realize, oh, this, I only did it wrong. I could have never worked for 10,000 hours. It was a mistake from my side. I could have never worked for 10,000 hours. I could have worked only for 7,500 hours. So what do? You divide this by 7,500. When you do this, you realize 25,000 divided by 7,500. 3.33. So you realize that your overhead rate should not have been 10. It should have been 13.33. This 3.33 which you have calculated is known as supplementary rate. Why it is supplementary? Because this rate you need to add. This is because of normally I should charge it, right? I can't do anything about it. It was, I will never be working for 10,000. I'll be working only for 7,500. So does it mean I'll keep on always absorbing at the rate of rupee 10? If I keep on doing that, I will be undervaluing, or I would be not charging the correct cost, or I would not be finding out the correct cost. I will never be calculating the correct cost. And if the cost will not be correct, that means the selling price will not be correct. See, it's a very simple thing, guys. Why are we doing costing? The material cost, I know. That is why I said question number 12 is very important. Labor cost, I know. Now, this overheads which you add, you absorb on a predetermined basis. Yes or no? Now, if there was a mistake, a genuine mistake, which you should have not done, and if you come to know later on, what do you need to do? So if this overhead rate you had calculated at the rate of rupee 10, but it should have been rupee 12, then what you should do? Instead of charging 10, you should charge 12 now. So how will you do that? You have already charged 10. You charge 2 more. So automatically the cost of the good will become higher. So when you get that cost, you add profit on it, and that's it. So that's the intention of finding out a supplementary rate. Okay. Now, Sushil Kumar. What is comprehensive machine hour? Sushil, I have got standing charges. What is written in theory? I'm not talking about. I'm talking about what do you mean by comprehensive charges? This is the third time I'm repeating. Let's say standing charges are 50,000. And let us say running charges are 60,000. When you run the machine, your expenses are 60,000. And all fixed expenses of that department is 50,000. Let's say your normal hours are 4,000. Setup time included in it, setup time included is 400. Right? Now, if you do not want to calculate comprehensive rate, you'll do what? You will do overhead rate would be when for 50,000, it will be 50,000. I will divide this by 4,000 because fixed costs need to be absorbed also because fixed costs have got nothing to do whether the machine is working or it's not working. So for me, the normal hours is 4,000. But for this, I will divide this by 3,600 hours. Why? Because these 400 hours, the machine doesn't work. So the expenses should only be absorbed when the machine is running. Now, this is known as dual rate, right? Separate rate, I calculate. Now, this ICAI is not teaching you. They're not teaching you. No question is there. So what do? I calculate comprehensive machine rate. Yes, machine rate. So your total overheads were how much? 50,000 plus 60,000. That is 1,10,000. And I'll divide this by 3,600. Because I've calculated one recovery rate. Right? That's known as a comprehensive machine hour rate. Okay. Thank you. Now, so I hope, Sushil, now you're very clear. Okay. Now, Shrisha. So we should add supplementary rate for entire. Yes, Shrisha, that's the intention. That is why when we did that, okay, we are calculating supplementary rate, then goods which are not sold, goods which were still in stock, goods which were sold, I added up this cost to each of those goods. So what was the logic? What was the logic, Shrisha? If we look at a sum, they say 10 rupees per hour is the overhead rate. And let us say, they say actual overheads incurred is 4,80,000. Right? And let's say you actually work for 4,000 hours. So how much overheads you recover? You recover 4 lakh. Now this 80,000 is under absorbed. Then what did I teach you? That please find out that what was the reason behind this under absorption. We found out that 40% was abnormal. Now, when I say abnormal, that means the person who was responsible for finding out this overhead rate is to be blamed, right? He is responsible for it. So that means 32,000. He is to be blamed. That means this I will debit where? In the costing P&L account. I will debit costing P&L account and overhead control account I'll credit. So when I debit costing P&L account, that means my profits reduce. Because this abnormal is not going to happen again. This is abnormal. This has happened because of the mistake of someone. But what about those 60%? Right? Which is 48,000. Now this 48,000 actually was, we did not have the far-sightedness, or we could not calculate, and we can't do anything about it, because now overheads, which the rate which I had calculated of rupee 10 is lesser. I should recalculate my overhead rate. This 10 rupees rate is not correct, because this 48,000 expenditure is going to happen again also. So that means I need to recalculate. Now let us say if I am 4,000 hours if I take up. So what do I get out with my supplementary rate as? This I'm doing it by hours. 48,000 divided by 4,000, 12. That means now my overheads absorption rate should not be, right? Actually, this should be 40,000, right? That means my overhead absorption rate should not be 10 rupees. It should be 10 plus 1.2, 11 point. Now 10 I have already charged. What will I do? I will charge 1 rupee 20 paisa more. So that is the logic behind supplementary. Okay. Now, this is it. Okay. So I think every possible question I have sorted it out, right? Now I'll tell you the MCQs. Please check the MCQs. Any printing error which you people said was there, I do not know. I keep on reading the MCQs, keep on looking at it, right? Now, absolutely, Manish, the profit margin will reduce because the cost will increase. Very simple logic, right? Okay, first question which was there in overheads was store material used in canteen of an organization can be classified by elements as. Okay, let me, if at all, I can share the screen. Will it be possible for me? I would have it in my mails. I'll do that. Instead of reading out the question, what I'll do is I'll show you the questions, right? I'll show you the MCQs actually, right? So I'll just check where they are and show you. Okay. So let's take up a break of 10 minutes now, right? So every possible thing of overheads is done. Still you have a doubt, you can come back to me. So it is, we take a break for 10 minutes and then we return. Okay. Thank you so much. You are following. That makes me very, very happy. Rekha Rani, Shrisha, Jyoti, Manish, thank you so much. Right, Vrinda, theory questions based on this chapter. Vrinda, the theory questions based on this particular chapter could be, what could be the reasons for under absorption, under and over absorption of overheads? How will you deal or how will you treat idle time? Um, then the accounting treatment for overheads under absorbed normally and abnormally. Then that's it. These are the few kind of questions which you can ask in theory, right? I hope, Sushil, I've answered your query, but I haven't got an answer from you that whether you understood it or not, because I couldn't have explained anything better than that, right? Ma'am, concept clear about comprehensive machine rate due to practical example. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sushil. Right. It really makes me feel happy as a professor, or I can say as a teacher, when students are able to understand what I'm trying to teach. Right. Okay. Now let's quickly go through the MCQs. So I share the screen with you. Okay. Okay, I just downloaded the MCQs. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the MCQs. The question here is, store material used in canteen of an organization can be classified by element as variable cost or material cost, indirect material cost or overhead. Obviously, by element, it will go where? The answer should be indirect material because it's a canteen. Question number 2. Details of expenses for the quarter are quarter 1, 4,000 and quarter 2. Yes, here there is a printing mistake. Right. So please here you write down quarter 1, 4,000, units 400. Please write it down. I am using my pen. So quarter 1, 4,000 and units is 400. For quarter 2, it is 5,000, units is 500. And quarter 3 is 9,000. So what will be the units here? So I think my intention was you just need to calculate that 4,000 divided by 400 is 10. 500 into 10 is 5,000. So if this is 9,000, it should be 900. So the answer should be 2. But there is a printing mistake here. Then question 3, the labor welfare expense is 2 lakh. There are 3 departments occupying equal floor space and producing goods. Is it not come up completely? Equal floor space and producing goods. The question here was, and producing goods in the ratio 3:2:1 and producing goods in the ratio 3:2:1. The labor employed in the department, it's not there. It's not there. Guys, I can see a lot of things missing. So I've understood your problem, right? So I will reload it, right? There are certain things in this square which are not coming. So I think it has not taken up all the inputs because the questions are a little lengthy. Because in the questions when I made, and the Excel was sent to me. It contained all the information. No worries. So this I will send it to you again. Nothing to worry. Okay. Now, thank you so much, Lakshmi. Even I love you guys. Okay. But guys, there is a mistake in this MCQ. Whole thing has not been printed. The answers are there. But when I checked it, it was everything was there. So I will reload it tomorrow. So I will send it and I'll do it. Okay. Now, guys, let us start up with something new. Right? Let's start up with something new. And let's see if we can understand what actually that topic is so that it becomes easier. The name of the chapter is Activity-Based Costing. Guys, on Monday, I will be taking up the text material and the sums with you. So today, let us understand what activity-based costing means. Right? Some people call it ABC. Right? Now you read this word ABC 2 times. When you will study material costing, then ABC is a method for inventory control, wherein A were high priced items but lesser in value, then B were medium items, medium in value and medium in quantity, and C was large quantity items but lesser in value. So when we studied material costing, it was taught to us that we should keep it was told to us that we should keep maximum control. We should keep maximum control on items which are in A category because they are most expensive. If one unit of that also gets lost, the company will suffer a big loss. And items which are there in C category, we may keep a lesser control. So we read the word ABC in material costing. But here I'm not teaching you material costing. I'm teaching you activity-based costing. What is activity-based costing? So before I teach that, I take up an example for all of you, right? If you like the example, you'll be able to actually understand what is the logic there, right? Now, say for example, a company produces good Zenta. This is the name of the product, Zenta. Only one good. I arbitrarily used this term. I don't know from where. Okay, good Zenta. Now here, there's only one product, right? Now, if I want to price or find out the cost of this product, it will be easy. I've got material, I've got labor, and whatever the overheads will be, I can divide them by that machine hours or labor hours or by units or by direct wages. I can have any of those methods which I studied in overhead costing. I can have any of those methods and I can just absorb the overheads here and find out the per unit cost. Even if the absorption rate is less or more, anyways, it has to go only on this product. Nothing to worry. Basically, it's only one product. All the overheads, everything is on that one product only. But now, please imagine a company is producing 3 products, X, Y, and Z. Yes. And let us say the direct material cost per unit was 10 rupees. Here it was, let's say 6 rupees, and here it was, let's say 15 rupees. And let's say direct labor cost. We pay laborers at the rate of ₹5. We spend 1 hour to manufacture X, so here it is 5. I spend half an hour to manufacture Y, so 2.5, and I take 2 hours to manufacture Z, so 5 into 2, 10. And I have an overhead absorption rate, which was on the basis of hours. And that was ₹6 per hour. And it was what? 6 rupees per hour. Simple. So on X, I spend 1 hour. On Y, I spend half an hour. On Z, I spend 2 hours. I have my cost. So what is the cost here? It is 21. What is the cost here? 8, 9, 10, 11, 11.5. And what is the cost here? 37. I was selling the good. Now the selling, usually, bacha, you need to remember, if I have a monopoly, I can sell it at whatever price I want. But usually I am in a monopolistic kind of environment, usually. It depends upon I'm in an oligopoly or monopoly or monopolistic or perfect competition. So keeping into mind, let us say I can sell this good X for 25. I can sell this good Y for 12. And I can sell Z for 36. So if I go by this method, which is technically known as absorption costing, I say that I am earning profit on X. I am earning a profit of around 50 paisa on Y. But I'm incurring a loss of ₹1 on Z. Why so? Because as per overhead absorption rate, I took up all the overheads, just divided them by one thing, which was either machine hours or labor hours or prime cost, whatever. Like in our question, we just took up that everything, all overhead should be divided on the basis of machine hours, which we can normally work. And due to which we got our machine hour rate to be 6 per hour. And on that basis, I calculated the cost of each of my goods. And this particular thing suggests that I should not produce and sell Z. This says I should not produce and sell Z. Why? Because Z is giving me a loss. I can see the best product happens to be X. Y is also fine because it is giving me 50 paisa. But the question is our method correct? Or is our method of absorbing overheads reliable? Let me use the word. Correct is not a right word, because this method is actually a simple method. That's why it was developed traditionally, and it was said that, okay, we can just absorb overheads on the basis of machine hours or labor hours or machine direct wages or as a percentage of prime cost, whatever was found to be correct. So actually, now sitting down as a consultant to this company, the owner of this company is saying, Anu madam, Z is not doing good, I should discontinue it. But when I look into the accounts and when I look into the things, I think there is no point in discontinuing Z, because I realize this company has maximum demand of Z. The product can be sold really well. So if company will stop selling Z, my worry is that how will the company earn profit? But looking at this, it suggests that there is no point in producing Z because Z is giving a loss. So what do? I now need to actually analyze my pattern of absorbing this overhead. I need to see that whether this methodology which I have adopted for absorbing overhead reliable, is it feasible, is it actually good enough for me to adopt this methodology? If yes, no worries. But if no, I need to rethink. Right? I need to rethink. So what do? I look at the overheads. Let us say all the overheads in the factory were, let's say, 2,50,000 or 2,50,000. And I realize that if I actually break up and try to find out what were these overheads about, I found out that 40,000 is relating to delivery. Okay. Then I realized that around 60,000 is relating to store section, store handling, stores handling. These overheads are happening because of handling of stores. And we realized that around 50,000 is because of, I can relate it to actually labor, or you can say indirect wages. And we realized that this 50,000 was due to setup. This was due to setup. Now this 2,50,000 is becoming how much? Let me make this 1 lakh. So now I realize that 2,50,000, if I break it up, I realize 1 lakh is because of the setup which I do. So the expenses which are incurred. 50,000 is because of the indirect wages, 60,000 is because of store handling, and 40,000 is because of delivery. So then I say that, okay, this 40,000 is because of delivery. That means it is dependent on number of orders or number of deliveries, yes or no? Obviously, 40,000 which I have incurred, delivery expense hoga, so it will depend on what? Number of times delivery has been done. The number of deliveries will depend upon number of orders that have come. Yes. Okay, so I realized that the number of deliveries were 400. Number of deliveries or number of orders of 400. Then we looked into the next expenditure. We said, okay, stores handling. Now, what do you mean by store handling? Why will store handling expenditure happen? See, when I put up a requisition, I say, okay, I need so and so much of material. So number of times material requisition form is put up, you incur all these expenses. That means the reason behind store handling was number of material requisitions which happened. And let us say this is 3,000 requisitions. 3,000 थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो गया. 300 requisitions. Yes. Then we went into the next expenditure and we found out that this 50,000 was because of indirect wages. Now, indirect wages will depend upon the number of hours, or it will depend upon number of employees. And we realize that the total number of employees is 50. And of course, setup expenditure depends upon number of times we set up a machine. So this depends upon number of setups. Right? Now, what am I doing? I have actually analyzed the overheads, gone a little beyond, and found out that what triggers these expenses. What is actually the driver? What is the driver behind these expenses? So we realize that delivery expenses happen because every time you place an order or every time a delivery order is done, you incur an expense. So the cost driver of delivery expenses was the number of orders. Similarly, we realized that store handling expenses is happening because every time a requisition is placed, expenditure is incurred. So we said that, okay, the cost driver behind store handling happens to be number of material requisition. Similarly for indirect wages, similarly for setup. So once we have done this, we do what? We say, let us find out, instead of finding out one overhead rate, which we were doing that, okay, 250,000 divided by number of hours, and we got out with that 6. Let us say, for example, our overhead recovery rate was 6. No, that means we would have calculated it how? We would have calculated it 250,000 divided by 6. That means we would have calculated that in the machine 41,666 hours work. So we would have just found out one recovery rate, and according to that, we just found out the cost per unit. So we said, no, that's not a great idea. We should find out the cost as per each of these cost drivers. So I'd find out an overhead rate as per each cost driver. So that means for delivery, it will be how much? It will be 40,000 divided by 400. It gives me 100 per order. Similarly, store handling, it will be what? 60,000 divided by 300. This is going to be 200 per requisition. Similarly, this will be how much? 50,000 divided by 50,000 rupees per employee. This will be what? 1 lakh divided by number of setups. Once we do this, what do we do? What do we do this? Once we have found out for each cost driver, then we go up that, okay, for product A, how many orders were there? How many store handling expense was there? How many employees are there in each of the product? How many setups were there in each of the product? Then on that basis, I divide the overheads over each of these products. See, it's a little lengthier process. But instead of directly dividing the cost on one basis, one traditional basis, I am actually finding out the reason behind each expenditure and then logically apportioning those expenses over the production units. So what will happen is that the cost that will come out will be a more logically derived cost. So that is what we call as ABC costing. It is lengthier, but it is logical, right? Somebody asks me, Ashwini ma'am, could you explain store handling? Stores handling, beta, you place an order. In material costing, you would have read this. There is a material requisition form which is given. How much material is required. So every time you place an order, there is an expenditure involved. No, there's a process involved. It will go here. Then, no. What is the meaning of overheads? The meaning of overheads is that every time, and say for example, in material costing, you read about ordering cost. No, what do you mean by ordering cost? It's like every time I place an order, I'll have to spend for transportation or I'll have to spend for insurance. That is why we used to say per order, I incur so and so much of expenditure. That is why we were trying to find out EOQ, which was giving us the best possible place where both these costs, which were opposite to each other, were equal. And that's what gave rise to the concept of EOQ, right? So store handling expenses means when you place an order or when the number of units which come, you order your expenditure. Say, for example, you're ordering 50 units. You might be requiring one person, right, for cleaning it or keeping it nicely. But if you're ordering 100 units, maybe what you are paying to that person, right, who was handling 50 units, you end up paying the same amount even if he's handling 100 units, but your cost will be lesser, no? So that is what you mean by stores handling, right? So there can be many expenses when we talk about stores handling. The question would be, I need to derive that what should be the best what should be the best possible methodology for allocating these overheads. What is it that triggers this expense, or what is the reason, or what is the driver behind this cost, right? So that is the concept of ABC costing, right? So now I take up a small example, a very small example, right? And with that, I'll end the session for today, right? Let's take up. So rule number 1, why do you apply ABC costing? You apply ABC costing if you are producing multiple products, and they are not homogeneous in all respect. So obviously the traditional method of allocating or absorbing overhead is not going to be a great idea. So we apply ABC costing if we are doing multiple products, right? Right. Okay. I'll give you one more small example. Let's take up a CA firm. Let's take up a CA firm. What do we do? All the expenses which happen in the CA firm, whether it is for traveling or whether it is for a pantry inside a CA firm, or whether it is relating to welfare expense, whatever expenses we are doing, we take up all those overheads, let's say 1 lakh rupees. And what do we do? Let's say there are 4 partners. Now, all these expenses have to be shared by these 4 partners only. No, there is no production. All these expenses will have to be shared by 4 partners. What do? We just divide them by 4. Simple, right? So we say each department, CA will have to share 25,000 of these expenses. Is that very clear? Right. Okay, now, but let us see, is this pattern good? It is easy. You had all the overheads, just divided it by number of people who were supposed to share. So there are 4 partners, you divided it between 4 people, and you said each partner will have to bear a cost of 25,000 each. Now let us look at this 1 lakh rupees. Let us analyze this 1 lakh rupees. When we analyze this 1 lakh rupees, we found 30,000 relates to pantry expense, tea, coffee, and all those things, right? 40,000 was relating to, treating the guests. Right? 10,000 was for filing and all those, when we file income tax returns and all those, that time expenditure which is done. And 20,000 was relating to travel. Now this I am taking up an a very, very practical example, right? We are all going to become chartered accountants. I am a CA, you are going to be a CA. So let's see what happens. Right? Now these 4 partners or these 4 chartered accountants are doing different work. One is sitting in the office and doing tax work. One is into audits. One is into investments, portfolios, finance work, let me put it. And one is into, let me put it like this, that his work is to indirect tax. There are four different departments, each one of them exactly. Now, this finance person is hardly coming to the office. He's meeting the customers out, looking at the requirement, or he's at home. Everything can be done on the laptop. He gets the details and, does it. The audit guy is actually coming to the office only at the time when, finalization of the balance sheet is there. Otherwise, he's usually on audits. The people who are there in the office are always these two people. The one who's handling the tax and the other who's handling the indirect tax. Now, that methodology of just dividing expenditure by 4 is not right, because technically speaking, these two gentlemen are never even going out for lunch. They're always bringing food from their homes. They're always sitting at one place. The client is coming. They are giving gyan to that person. The articles are actually doing the filing work. They are hardly moving out from the office. They come in the office at 9 o'clock in the morning. They leave the office at 10 o'clock in the night. They are always only doing one thing, taking up tea. Right? And filing expenses, which is the audit guy is always on travel. So don't you think that if we are actually dividing these expenses, if no travel is done by any of these people, this whole travel expense should go to the audit guy? Because this audit guy is not using the pantry, or he's not into treating guests and all that stuff. Maybe he might be using, out of 30 days, one day he's using the pantry, and you can say 10% of the filing cost belongs to the audit. And maybe like 10% of this 10,000 should go here. Right? That is 1,000. And let's say 5% of this. But this much expenditure should go to the audit guy. Yes or no? Logic. This is what logic says. Finance guy hardly comes to the office. No interest in filing, pantry, nothing. So technically this 40,000 should go into the finance guy. And the balance expenditure, 30 minus this 5% and 10 minus this 10,000, balance expenditure, you can share it between tax and indirect tax people equally. Yes or no? Don't you think that will be a more logical division of costs? Because if you do not, because all these 4 people are doing different work. I have given a very, very different example, guys. I know everybody is always stuck with one thing. Technically speaking, the cost to the audit guy should be 20,000 plus 1,000 plus how much of this? 1,500. So the audit guy should be having 20 plus 1,000 plus 1,500. So technically 20 to 500 should go to the audit guy. 40,000 should go to the finance guy. And the balance 28,500 plus 9,000, right? Which is how much? 28,500 plus 9,000 should be divided equally between tax and indirect tax. CMA. So now with this, there'll be no hard feelings. Everybody is going to be fine, and they'll be like, yeah, otherwise, imagine you are asking me to share expenditure which I have not even done. Do you think it'll be logical? Just asking you a small question. Do you think it'll be logical? Let me see, is there anybody asking any question? Manish, it does not matter it is fixed or it's not fixed. Whether expense is fixed or it is variable, it's an overhead. The question is, should I divide overhead? And how do I divide it? Uh, um, Thank you so much, Ashwini, that you're clear. Dear ma'am, are you a practicing CA? No, Shushil, I'm not a practicing CA. Yeah, but my mind definitely works for practical things. Okay. So I think everybody is clear that traditional costing appears out to be simple. But everything which is simple may not always be perfect. What do you say? May not always be perfect. It may lead to different interpretation if there was only one product, or you can say, I am the boss, I am handling everything, then every expense has to go into me. So I may use a simpler method and absorb it. But if at all I am producing more than one product, then I should be rational while dividing the expenses. Like I took up this example of a CA firm primarily for this particular reason, because it's a very simple example which every one of us can understand, right? And so if we understand that if at all we find out the cost driver and find out or absorb overheads on the basis of that cost driver, we will be able to cost our product more appropriately, right? So that's all from my side. On Monday, we will be solving sums and sums of ABC costing, doing nothing else except this, right? I will reload these sums. Anything else you guys want to ask me, please let me know. Else, that's all from my side. Raj Mohan, ma'am, in case of ABC, we can say that detailed distribution of overheads. Yes, Raj. Rather, instead of using detailed overhead, I would say more logical method of distributing overheads in case we are producing more than one product. It's like, Braj, if you put it like this, Braj, you are the only person, whatever you're doing it on your own. But imagine a joint family, Braj. We are in a joint family, right? Now, in that joint family, if all expenses are being shared equally, what happens? If everybody is not using all services equally, what happens? You tell me what happens. Why the conflicts happen in a joint family? A very simple question. Thank you so much, Sakshi, for wishing me a happy Teacher's Day. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much, Jyoti. But Braj, can you answer my question? If everybody is not using the services equally, but we divide everything equally by finding out one rate, what will happen? It'll create problems. So what do we need to do? We need to be more logical. If X has got 2 children and Y has got 1 children, then I can't just equally divide the expenses. I will calculate that, okay, coaching fees expense depends upon the number of classes taken up. So if these 2 children have taken up 10 classes and this one child has taken up 3 classes, then the division should be between 3:10 instead of dividing it equally. Okay. So that's all from my side. I took up real life examples so that you understand the concept. So that's all from my side. Have a very, very great evening. Enjoy yourself and stay fit, stay happy. See you on Monday. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm signing it off. I'm signing off. Bye-bye.